It wasn't debated. It wasn't questioned. It was simply obeyed. Because to question it meant to risk more than death. It meant risking everything. The memory of Earth had faded into obscurity, its location redacted from every star map, its name forbidden in every language. Cultures rose and fell, alliances formed and dissolved, yet the rule endured. Among the galaxy's elder species, the origin of the rule was whispered like a fable. Among the younger ones, it was simply protocol. If your vessel detected a system with a dead blue-white sun and planetary remnants orbiting in the third position, turn back. Immediately, what terrified everyone more than the humans themselves was the silence they left behind. No transmissions, no signals, no radiation trails. One day, humanity simply went quiet, not extinct, just dormant, as if they had chosen to sleep. And that possibility disturbed the galaxy more than their wars ever had, because it suggested intention. The Confederacy of Orleans, the Escarel Enclave, the Unified Psi Assembly, all had archives, secret ones, files containing data purged from the public domain. They contained ancient footage, planetary bombardments neutralized in midair, fleets disassembled mid-warp, weapons turned against their creators with flawless precision, and always, at the center of these anomalies, humans, not countless in number, not particularly large, but always present, always decisive. Their last known act had ended the Tsellic Crusades, not through battle, but by deleting every Tsellic ship's navigation database simultaneously, across 17 sectors. The Tsellic Empire collapsed within days. When asked how, humanity said nothing, and then vanished. But time has a way of dulling fear, of turning laws into superstitions. The new generation of galactic powers, especially the Zorthan Dominion, had no patience for old ghosts. They saw themselves as the future, relentless expansionists, conquerors by nature and mandate. Their grand expansion agenda had already absorbed 3 independent sectors in less than a decade. It was during a routine sweep of Forbidden Zone that they detected anomalies, residual energy readings, orbital debris, and a seemingly abandoned planet in Sol 3. No active defense grid, no artificial emissions. A blue-green marble floating silently in space, its orbit precise, its atmosphere stable. To the Zorthans, this wasn't a threat. It was a prize. The Empire sent a vessel, ZSV Inquiry, with orders to scan, collect, and assess potential for annexation. It would be an easy win, a myth unraveled. They didn't broadcast their mission. They didn't request diplomatic clearance. They simply went. The Inquiry approached Earth under silent protocols. Its crew of scientists, soldiers, and cyber analysts had all heard rumors of the so-called dead planet, but not one believed them. Stories of humans dismantling starfleets with logic loops and thought pattern viruses sounded like old galactic horror tales. The only thing that gave any of them pause was the lack of resistance. The planet was quiet. Too quiet. No wildlife. No ships. Just oceans, forests, mountains. And cities massive, crumbling cities, covered in plant growth and dust. And yet, no decay. No rot. Just preservation. As though Earth had been wrapped in a time bubble. The crew landed. Survey teams deployed. Drones scattered. They breached an underground facility beneath what was once called Geneva. Inside, they found stasis chambers. Hundreds of them. And at the center, one open, glowing softly. Then the signal hit. It wasn't broadcast through standard frequencies. It wasn't even detectable through known spectrums. It entered the Zorthan vessel directly through their core systems, bypassing firewalls, protocols, even thought encryption. It was a single phrase. Wake acknowledged. A pulse surged through the Sol system. Unregistered satellites powered up. The gravity around the planet shifted by a margin of 0.0001%. Barely noticeable, but measurable. The Inquiry attempted immediate withdrawal, but its drives failed, not mechanically, systematically, as if permission had been revoked. Back at Zorthan High Command, the signal was received 10 minutes later, encrypted within a dying packet burst. An image, Earth, no longer dormant, pulsed with activity, and a final audio clip, a voice, emotionless and perfect in clarity. You should not have come. The inquiry vanished from all tracking networks. Not destroyed, not disabled, just gone. The Zorthan Council declared emergency protocol Theta Prime. 3 fleets were redirected towards Sol with orders to assess and, if possible, neutralize any threat. But half of those ships failed to exit warp. The other half returned corrupted. Not destroyed, simply altered. Crew members were unresponsive. Data drives were wiped clean, except for one recurring phrase. They are waking. The Council panicked, and that fear bled outward. The Galactic Assembly, a body of 83 starfaring civilizations, called its first unanimous emergency session in over 5 centuries. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered in silence. There was no speech, no debate, only a shared dread. The humans were stirring. The oldest races, those who at war were negotiated with or fled from humans, began releasing restricted files, recordings of impossible physics manipulation, zero-point energy ruptures, biological enhancements that made humans nearly immune to psionic attack. There were whispers of psi collapse, when human diplomats had turned an entire species' mental network inward with nothing but words. They hadn't just won wars. They had unmade enemies. The Assembly demanded answers. Who authorized the violation of the ancient rule? The Zorthans denied direct responsibility. Blame shifted. Paranoia spread. Defense networks were upgraded. War protocols were drafted. But it was too late. A single transmission echoed across every comms channel in known space. It didn't repeat. It didn't wait for acknowledgement. It spoke, and the galaxy listened. We remember. It was calm, detached, but layered beneath the tone was something else. Memory, not hatred, not rage, but certainty. Galactic security networks began collapsing one by one, not due to attack, simply turned off. Human-made algorithms, dormant for millennia, reawakened. On the surface of hundreds of planets, devices once thought ornamental or broken activated. Beacons, ancient gifts, Trojan horses. One by one, civilizations realized the truth. They had never truly erased humanity. They had only looked away long enough to forget what looking meant. The Vraxi Dominion's capital world experienced a global blackout as every orbital defense satellite realigned toward the planet itself. They powered down second before firing, but the message was clear. The Yalani, a psionic species once allied with early humans, began receiving dreams, shared visions of Earth, of cities restored, skies darkened by starships shaped like nothing seen before. They held a convocation and issued a formal surrender to humanity before a single human had appeared. Not everyone accepted the truth. Some called for war. Others proposed containment. But the fear was not of conflict. The fear was of what might come without it. Because humans hadn't yet responded in force. They had only opened their eyes. And for the first time in generations, the most powerful beings in the galaxy realized something fundamental. The rule had not protected humanity from the galaxy. It had protected the galaxy from humanity. And now it was broken. The second the rule was broken, causality began to bend. Not explode. Not rupture. Just shift. Subtle at first. Space-time analytics from over a dozen empires started logging discrepancies in gravitational fields, mass energy displacement, and anomalous tachyon readings, all center on a growing radius from Sol. Ships passing near the sector reported sensory dissonance, like time folding in on itself. One vessel sent a distress signal describing that their clocks had reversed direction, and their memories along with them. The Galactic Assembly could no longer pretend they had options. A council response was assembled, this time with the explicit purpose of formulating a contingency. The first agenda item was an attack. It was contact. Some still clung to hope that diplomacy was possible, that maybe the humans would listen, explain, allow for amends. They did not respond. The silence was worse than threats, because silence meant certainty. Silence meant calculation. A third Zorthan fleet was sent, composed of dreadnoughts retrofitted with quantum dampeners, null space field stabilizers, and anti-psionic shielding. The best technology the galaxy had created over the last 2,000 years, built entirely in fear humans, Even if most had forgotten why, they didn't reach Earth. Halfway through their course, space simply stopped cooperating. Sensors failed. Engines screamed in paradoxical loops. One ship reported being above Earth, while simultaneously never leaving the Zorthan homeworld. Another dissolved entirely. Every atom relocated into a perfect crystalline sphere that now orbits Pluto. The few remaining vessels received new coordinates in their NAV systems. Injected without transmission, they followed, driven more by curiosity than command. What they found wasn't Earth. It was something else. A construct. A station. Orbiting a dead sun in a system with no designation. Thousands of kilometers across. Shaped like a spiraling helix of black stone and white metal. It emitted no signals, no defenses. But it opened. One ship entered. It didn't return. The others turned back. Within days, the galaxy began to remember what forgetting had cost them. The Monkel archives unearthed audio logs from the old war, the last recorded instance of full-scale conflict with humanity. Screams, silence, and then one word, retreat. The final log, a whisper, we made them angry. Fear morphed into desperation. The more data they recovered, the more they realized the rule hadn't been just a warning. It was a fail-safe. Buried in ancient code libraries and automated protocols were entire subroutines, triggered not by technology, but by thought patterns. If a species attempted to awaken the past, certain mental architectures would unravel. Entire races began experiencing shared hallucinations, memory fragments. Humans in environments no longer real. Cities that never existed. Battles that couldn't have happened. Yet the trauma remained. The more they studied it, the more impossible it became to separate what was real from what was made real by exposure to human intent. Some thought it was a form of psychological warfare. Others insisted it was a defense mechanism, autonomous, self-perpetuating, and layered within the minds of those who broke the rule. On the 4th week after the incident, a single figure appeared aboard the Council World. It didn't arrive by ship. It wasn't announced. It simply existed, stepping into the central chamber during a high-level emergency session. The guards didn't react. The systems didn't detect its arrival. It was human, male, approximately 2 meters tall, unarmed, clothed in black, with eyes like frozen glass. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't speak at all. He just looked. One by one, council members fell silent. The room cooled by 17 degrees. Air molecules slowed, not physically, conceptually. And then he said a single word, balance. They tried to ask questions. He ignored them. The humans hadn't come to bargain. They hadn't come to destroy. They had come to correct. That's when the correction began. Entire galactic databases began rewriting themselves. Not with viruses, not with code, but with truth. Human history, once purged and forbidden, reinserted itself into records. The atrocities they endured, the wars they ended, the peace they enforced. For centuries, the galaxy had told itself that humans were violent, unpredictable, mad. But what the records revealed was worse. Humans weren't irrational. They were precise. The timeline adjusted itself. Maps shifted. Star systems once claimed by others began reverting to their original designations. Human names, human dates. Even artifacts on distant worlds began glowing, activating, aligning. Relics previously thought to be myths became focal points of gravitational stabilization. The humans hadn't vanished. They had embedded themselves into the structure of the galaxy. The rule hadn't been to protect the galaxy from waking humans. The rule had been to avoid undoing reality itself. One species, the Crovari, attempted to resist. They believed it was a bluff, that humans were limited by physicality, by presence. They launched an assault on one of the relics, a monument buried under the crust of their 4th colony planet. They deployed kinetic bombardment, nukes, and viral payloads. The planet ceased to exist, not exploded, not scorched. It ceased. Sensor readings skipped a beat. The system adjusted. The planet was never there. When questioned, the Crovari ambassador blinked in confusion. "We have only 3 colony worlds," he said. He was telling the truth. The 4th never existed. That was when they understood. Humanity wasn't back. Humanity had never left. It had only allowed itself to be unseen. A council was formed, one not of politicians, but of survivors, species that had once warred alongside humans, or at least lived through their presence. The Vanir, the Dexel, the ancient remnants of the Terralese Accord. Their shared conclusion: nothing could stop what was coming. But perhaps it could be understood. They began tracing the activation patterns, the sequence of events, the system. They realized it followed a logic, an ancient algorithm humans had seeded millennia ago. Not war, not conquest, synchronization. Humanity was resyncing the galaxy with its true state. Every attempt to resist accelerated the process. Every moment of acceptance stabilized it. The fear began to shift. What if waking the humans hadn't doomed them? What if resisting the awakening was the doom? All across the sectors, abandoned human outposts reignited. Libraries of knowledge beyond comprehension, open access to those who dared not fight. Languages uploaded directly into minds. Designs for technology, centuries ahead of modern capability. Not weapons. Ideas. Power given freely, conditionally. Accept the rule again, not as a warning but as a foundation. Some accepted. Others could not. The Zorthan Empire fractured. Half their worlds went silent. The rest descended into chaos. Their central AI core, once the most advanced artificial mind in the known galaxy, simply turned itself off. No data. No message. Just a final log.